Straighter.
I think so. Hi guys. Yeah, we are here. Hi everybody. Tonight we are going to be talking about making the most of your lunging, and it's kind of that time of year right now where there's snow sliding off of the arena and horses have a little bit of extra energy. So we've had some questions recently about lunging and what we do when we're lunging and how to make the most of it. So we're going to give you some do's and do nots for lunging. If you have not been here with us before, then thanks for being here. For everybody who has been here before, thanks for coming back. My name's Lindsay, this is Jess. We're here most Tuesday nights answering questions that are sent in by you guys. You can ask questions as we go, if you like, in the comments, and we'll try to get back to you while we're live. If we don't get to you while we're live, or if you're watching the replay, you can still leave your questions and we'll come back and try to get to those as well. You're also welcome to send us a future topic. If you have something that you would like for us to discuss or a question that you'd like for us to answer, you can send that to us. You can send us a message on Facebook or Instagram, or you can send us an email at hayeskofellph@gmail.com. So we're going to talk about lunging, and we're going to try to give you some good tips for what to do and what not to do to maximize your lunging. If you are looking for some more help with your lunging, the real help is inside of our online coaching program, Momentum, where we have videos where we're actually showing you exactly what to do and how we do it. We've got recorded sessions, actual lunging sessions, where we're using, our own horses and some non-pro horses for the demonstrations for what you should be doing. You know, we've got voiceovers, we've got checklists, we've got all the things that you need to be able to implement these things yourselves. You can get that information from me. You can send me a message, or you can find it also on our website. Looks like you guys are on and you can hear us okay, so we'll go ahead and get started. So do you want to talk for a second about the purpose of lunging? Why would somebody lunge and why would somebody not lunge their horse?
I think the main purpose is safety, obviously. If that horse needs to be exercised in a controlled way, I think whether like they're just full of energy, they haven't been rode in a few days, or the person's just a little concerned about the horse. Or the other one that we always kind of forget is like if you're bringing one back, rehabbing them after they've been hurt, and you want them to have controlled exercise. Mm-hmm. I think that one's the toughest one to get them. So I think for me, the reason to get them lunging is that if we lunge them when they're babies and we show them a proper way to lunge, then when we go to lunge them because we're either bringing them back from being sore or something, then they're already broke to the idea of how to lunge properly without blasting off and bucking and running, so we can actually bring them back safer. So I think the safety, for me, the biggest one is safety.
Yeah, that's a super good point. I wasn't on that track at all. I was on the track of like everybody's starting to get back to riding. Like right now when we're recording this, it's February in Ontario. It's cold. Horses are fresh. They got loads of energy. So we're lunging so that we don't fall off.
That would be safety.
I mean,
I
that's
don't
human
bounce
safety.
anymore.
I was thinking human safety. You were thinking
Both.
like horse safety and horse well-being. And that's a super good point. That's another reason why to be really specific and disciplined about how you're lunging and not just sending your horses out and letting them play or letting them buck, which is what a lot of people do, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So aside from that being one of the dangers of just sending your horse out and letting them go hog wild on the end of the lunge line, why else would you advise against doing that? Because we don't do that. We don't send them out on the end of the lunge line and let them pull us around or buck or, I don't know, scoot, lean in, all that stuff. Why other than if you're rehabbing them, would you not allow them to do that?
Well, for me, when I don't allow them to do it, the biggest reasons are if I have contact with that horse, I want them to mind their P's and Q's. If I tell them to jog, they jog. If I tell them to lope, they lope. And I don't want them ever thinking if I'm on the end of a lead shank that they can jerk away from me and go play and run around like a crazy thing. And it sets their brain that if I have hold of you, you are mentally with me, not goofing around. And then for us, it's a safety thing where when they start to be lesson horses, like when we first start teaching somebody to ride, we put them on a lunge line.
Yeah.
You know, you don't want
They
them horses
cannot
blasting
think
off
that it's
that.
okay to go. Yeah.
But my biggest thing is you can start to train their brain. Like when I kick them out away from the lunge line, I push them out there. I tell them to jog. I tell them to lope. The same as if I was on their back, and if they goof off and, you know, run and buck, I'm going to pull on their face on that lunge line. And if they're really bad, I might even put 2 lunge lines, one on each side of them, and kind of ground drive them and be able to pull them that way so that they still go walk, jog, lope. And with that double line, you can also work on leads a little better. But I think the basic of it is just make them mind their, if they are saddled, if they are on a lunge, anything where they are in contact or you have control of them, they have to say, yes, sir, yes, ma'am. You know, what can I do for you? Instead of, I hope you're strong enough to hang on.
Yeah. Hold my beer and watch this.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've seen a lot of people do that at horse shows. Ooh.
Okay, so to keep this kind of quick so that we don't go on and on and on, because I feel like lunging is something I feel super strongly about. We could go on and on about lunging, what to do, what not to do,
I feel
and
strongly
why.
about, but I think one thing, we don't lunge very much, but when we do, you make the time count.
Right. The idea is not to send them out for a really long time and bore the heck out of them and then develop a bunch of bad habits because they're bored and they think they're on their own time. The idea is to get out there, be intentional, do an effective job lunging so that you can lunge less or not at all.
Well, and if you do it right, you eliminate the need. Like the BS, if you let them play, they'll play for 5 minutes now. By the end of the show season, they need 20 minutes of play because they're in better shape and they're just, you've taught them to be goofy. You've taught them
that this is playtime. Okay, your 3 top do nots that you see people do that irk you.
I don't like it when people are lunging and they're walking more than the horse. If I kick them out, I don't want them bucking, but I do not want to have to sit there and walk after them to chase. If they're not broke enough, I mean, the babies, when I first lunge them, yes, I have to get behind them and show them where to go. But then I should be able to stand in the middle. And if I hum, they slow down. If I say whoa, they stop. If I cluck, they lope. And I hate it when you see people walking after and you think, man, the person's getting more physical condition. And I think the other part with walking after them is you're always giving their face back to them a few feet by walking after them, and they're learning to kind of pull you around just a hair.
Okay, that's one.
I don't
That's
like
a
it.
loaded one. Okay, one.
I don't like it when people let them buck
Yeah.
and play and rear and they think it's funny, or the horse turns back the other way. If I'm lunging to the left, they are stuck to the left until I stop them, bring them towards me, and I kick them out the other way. I know it's kind of a fad with the natural horsemanship stuff. You know, they get low and they kick the horse at their side, but I've seen so many times people lunge them and then they jump out the other side because they think it's a game. I push them out. And this isn't so much how to lunge, but my biggest pet peeve is don't lunge in the warm-up pen at a horse show. You know, we used to do it all the time. We'd be getting ready for rein-ins, and the show committees would be announcing, you know, no lunging in the warm-up pens. And the people, well, I need to lunge my horse, or he's going to show here tomorrow. Don't be that person. You know, just lunge when the times are appropriate. lunge in spots. Like, don't say, oh, you're at, like in the Rainers, I've seen people go in the warm-up pens, they lunge in one end because everybody's certain, well, they're going to fence in a little bit. Just don't be that person. Lunge when it's appropriate. Lunge in different arenas. Lots of shows anymore have multiple places or specific places. And just don't lunge when everybody's riding. How about you? Got any don'ts?
I sure do.
Like what?
Don't put your horse out on the lunge line and jog them around slowly.
Yes.
That doesn't do anything.
Doesn't do one bit of good, does it?
Nope, it doesn't do any good. Don't, oh, we're getting on more natural horsemanship stuff here. Don't act like a predator. It drives me nuts to see people thinking that they should be on the ground, acting like a predator, moving the line like a snake, or staring at their shoulders to try to get them to change directions. You don't have to act like a predator. You need to act like
A human.
you are a human. Yeah, I hate to break it to you. You need to act like you are in control and you are giving direction. It doesn't have to be a threat. It shouldn't be a threat. It needs to be a human and a horse working together, the human giving the direction. Keep it simple. Don't go into weird things of trying to act like a predator.
Why would you want to pretend
That
to be a
drives me
predator now
insane.
and then go catch them?
And then try to get on them, and then what? That it doesn't make sense. I also pet peeve, and I do this sometimes myself, but like, is not having your saddle tight enough or having a breast collar on. You have to make sure that your equipment is done up properly and that it's done up tight enough for lunging, especially if they do get bucking or, you know, doing something silly, scooting. You have to chase after them and they're running kind of fast. You need to make sure that your equipment is set, that your saddle's tight. If you have a bridle on, that the reins are tied up, that if you have a breast collar on, that it's set properly. You want to make sure that all that stuff is done before you start lunging. Okay, that's all the negativity. What do you do? And somebody's actually saying, what do you actually do? What do you do? What do you think people should do? You did the do nots.
I think they should push that horse out, make them long trot, then make them walk, then make them lope for a little bit, so that they're always in a frame of mind, paying attention to you. And if they're not, pull them down. The same as you would pull them on their back. If one just started loping off and you didn't ask for it, pull them. They're big animals. They'll take it. They're fine. They understand why. You know, you give them enough time, they'll figure it out. I think that's the biggest thing is, like, don't let them play and then tell them what to do. The other one that I don't like when people do it is they let the horses crossfire or be on the wrong lead. For me, if I have a horse that is really bad leaded, I'll kind of fix them on the lunge line. You know, they get out there and they pull on me and they're crossfiring a little bit. I'll pull on them and soften them up and let them know that every time you're on the wrong lead, you know, I'm going to get after you a little bit. Or one I might do is I take a second lunge line and either run it back from the bridle if they're comfortable with that, or even click it onto the cinch ring and run it around their hip. And then when they're on the wrong lead, I pull that hip to the inside, same as you would if you're pushing a leg onto them. And I'll work their hips quite a bit that way. Get them underneath themselves, get them on the right lead. Again, if you're attached to them, they need to be good. What about you?
I think that whatever cues you use when you're riding the horse, you should also use when you're lunging. Keep the cues the same. Whatever noise you use for a trot, you should keep using for a trot. Whatever noise you use for a lope, you should keep using for a lope. And not mix those up or not add more in. Your lunging doesn't need to be complicated. It needs to support what you're going to be doing when you ride. Another thing that you should do is make sure that you are keeping your body open in the direction that you want your horse to go. So this could actually be a pet peeve where people will like stand and like let their horse go around like this and they just stand in one spot. You need to open your body, whichever direction your horse is going, your body needs to be kind of open like a door, showing them where to go. It makes sense to the horse, it makes sense to them from birth, it makes sense to them when it carries over onto their backs. When you're riding them, you open your body where you want them to go. You need to keep that body language consistent and open your body where you want them to go. Otherwise, they're going to ignore where your body is, and you don't want that. You don't want to be teaching them to ignore your body. And then the other thing is, again, equipment. The other thing that I think you should do, I said before about making sure that your saddle's tight, but some horses, when they're lunging, need additional protection, or they need the same protection that they have when you're riding them on when you're lunging them. So, you know, we have a lot of horses that need to have bell boots on when you're lunging them in case they reach up and they, you know, smash their heels. Yeah, they can overreach and, you know, get themselves kind of bloody and stuff. So you want to make sure that you have that. If they need sport boots on for a little bit of support, or polo wraps or whatever for support. If you need a breast collar on, then you want to have that on for when you're lunging, and make sure that it's tight enough that it's actually functional so that your saddle can't slip around. But you want to have all of that stuff on before you go. You want to add something to that?
Well, when it comes to equipment, another one too is like, and there is times when, you know, we come in here Monday morning, some of the 2-year-olds are kind of buggy-eyed, and you know they're gonna be out there and want to play around. And I won't saddle them up. I'll lunge them first, then bring them in to saddle them. Still work on them the same way, but I find it works better in the long run, so they don't associate that being saddled and being fresh and going out. Mm-hmm. You know, I'll lunge them. Let's say I'll lunge a couple of them in the morning, and then I'll ride them in the afternoon, or even lunge them, let them sit in the cross ties for a little bit, and then come back out. A, you don't get in trouble with tack, and then B, they just don't associate. Anything with the saddle should not be associated with I'm allowed to buck, or I'm allowed to, you know, get out there.
Okay, cool. What questions did we have in there? Did you catch any of those? What do you attach your line to?
If I'm using a snaffle bit, I will put it on a snaffle. If I'm using small ports or certain bits, I will put it right on the ring where the rein goes, because I'm not letting those things go out there and run and push on the bridle anyways. It's not like if they're a goofball and they're gonna run off and play and stuff. If you put a port on there and you pull that shank around, then yeah, it'll hurt them, but they're not going to if you teach them properly up in the stages. So I just lunge with the bridle on. If I am lunging a 2-year-old that maybe is fresh, I prefer to actually lunge them with the bit on. They get a lot of education about, you know, pulling their face to the left or the right, whichever way they're going. I just have a couple snaffles that I don't have reins on. They're the same snaffles I put on when they first get bitted up to learn how to carry it. And I'll put those on their mouths.
Everybody thinks that you make your horse hard in the mouth by like pulling and, you know, by pulling a lot, but it's more how you pull, and it's whether when you pull they give. So
you never let them leg against it,
yeah,
that's for sure.
as long as you're not holding, if you have your bridle on and you're just holding the whole time, then that's when your horse is going to get used to bracing and develop the musculature for bracing, which we don't want. But as long as when you're pulling, they're giving, you're actually better to have the bit in their mouth. The only thing I would add, Christine's question was, where do you attach your line to? If we are using a halter, I'll attach it to the sides. I don't like to attach it under here.
Yeah,
if
left
I'm
is on the
lunging,
left
yeah,
side,
if I'm
right is
lunging
on
to
the
the
right
left,
side.
I attach it on the left side. If I'm lunging on the right, I attach it on the right side.
And if I have a bit on that already had, like for reins, then I can just tie the reins up. And
Hi, Donna. Hi, Lori, Shanae, Nancy, Leanne. Awesome.
I think the biggest thing is when you lunge them, it's the same workout as when you ride them. You're into their brain. You're just trying to get into their brain. It's another opportunity to do it. And
All right, I think we answered all those questions. So just quickly to recap, we talked about why you would lunge, the goals of your lunging. Then we talked about some do nots. The do nots were, don't be the person that lunges at the horse show in the middle of the warm-up pen. Don't let them buck and goof around. Don't get caught walking after your horse all the time and getting pulled around by your horse. Don't jog your horse slowly for hours and hours. Don't act like a predator. And don't forget to have your saddle tight, your cinch tightened up. The do's, do you want to talk about the do's?
Always use the same cues as when you ride. Pull them down if they're being bad, same as when you're riding them. Always on the correct lead.
Yep.
Just everything.
Make sure that they're in a power trot or a power lope. Don't be letting them go around slowly or where they're looking around and thinking about other things. You want a power trot, power lope. Make sure your body stays open in the direction that you want them to go, and make sure that they have whatever protection on that they need to prevent injury.
And if you're working with a young baby, make sure you have the right stuff on too.
That we should have said that. Yeah, we should have said that first. Keep yourself safe. Yeah.
Don't let the lunge line wrap around your foot.
Don't wrap lunge lines. Oh my gosh, yeah. Don't wrap lunge lines around any body parts. Don't forget your gloves. Yeah. Make sure that you're on good footing. All the obvious stuff too. Okay. Thanks for being here, you guys. I hope that gives you some ideas about what to do to be more effective when you're lunging, so that you can use that as a really effective tool rather than something where you're just sending them out and tiring them out. We want to try to keep our horses as sound as possible for as long as possible. So we don't want to send them out there and, creating some repetitive strain injuries. We want to get them out there, use it as a very effective session to get focused so that we're setting them up for riding, and if we need to bring them back from being out of shape or an injury, or if we need to use them as lesson horses and have them lope off quietly with students on them, they're not going to blow up. Thanks for being here, you guys, and make sure that you send us in your questions for future topics. Night.
Have a good night.